Hello everyone. It has been a very, very long time since we've done a live stream here from the Jagex studio, especially on Block and Load. Last time we kind of did a video, but this time we thought we'd take it a step further and go live because there's so much that's obviously happened, from questions that have come up and from everyone else that, you know, there's a fair bit to go through. But as a bit of an intro, I'm Shawnee and joining me is Mod Lunatic. And just for people who didn't watch the recording, are you able to do a little bit of an intro about yourself?
Yeah, very much. So I'm Mod Lunatic. I've been working on the Block and Load project for a little bit more than 5 months now, trying to figure out how we can bring back the game to where it needs to be. And I'm the producer on the project, and hopefully we'll be able to answer as many of your questions as possible.
Yeah, we got a lot to go through. So just before we go into it, just a question from me. What was the reaction to seeing everyone getting involved in all the stuff after announcing everything?
That is exciting. This is exactly what we're here for. You know, this is the game that lives by the players for the players, and you know, seeing that the community is involved, that they come back to us sometimes with a lot of passion, but they make a difference. You know, they just make us want to do it.
Yeah, there we go, right from Lunatic himself. So got a couple of questions. Obviously, we'll answer as much as we can. We've pretty much taken this from the Steam thread that's been up. So there's a lot here. So just sit back and let's just go into it. So first of all, how is the progress on custom bug fixes and additional features? So
there's two aspects to that question. The custom games, we probably will basically let them a little bit further. We really want to fix the main game first. You know, if we focus too much on the custom part of the games, we'll divide the community, matchmaking times will be longer. So we want to keep that on the side. But bug fixes, for that matter, we've got a number of bugs that are going to be fixed. I want to name the infamous Tesla coil. I want to name, you know, the fact that the boom box will not disappear after behind the skybox. But there are basically bugs that are being fixed, and we hope to bring to the community.
Awesome. And then obviously, you know, we talked about the December updates, but what kind of updates can we expect after the December update? So
that's a key question. It's obviously something we explained in the last video. The point remains that, you know, we want the community to be absolutely clear about what we are trying to do here. It's an experiment. It's an experiment is in trying to make sure that Block and Load has got enough life in itself to make sure that we can bring it back. So after these 5 months, there's two solutions. Either we've succeeded, and that's the best scenario, and we want all to succeed, and then we will be able to go back to the direction of the company and make sure that actually we bring the game back to life. That means more marketing, there will be more questions about that. That means also more development, but we will be able to actually bring the game back. And if we don't succeed, we basically will be in the situation we've been for a year and a half. We'll basically keep the servers alive, but it will be unlikely that we'll be able to be doing more I would say, development further.
Agreed. And I just want to make a message. Sally is actually in the chat. Obviously, Sally's no longer with us, unfortunately, but
hi,
she's in the chat, so I want to say hi to Sally, which is pretty awesome.
Nice
I hope you're doing amazing.
Good to see you.
So yeah, it's really cool. So let's jump into some other questions. Will you be adding support for other operating systems?
Right now, and it's going to be a theme throughout this Q&A, we are focusing on what really makes a difference today. So definitely custom OS or different OSs will not be at the order of the day for now.
Got it. And you know, you kind of touched upon it, so actually I don't even need to say that question. Kind of touched upon what would happen, of course, after the 5-month development would end. So just gonna speed ahead a little bit here, which is good. Ticking off questions all the way. I'd like to second the game optimization question. I can run some higher games on 60 FPS, but then again on here I'm lucky to get a consistent 30 FPS in like 85% of the games.
Yes. So the performance is obviously an issue we are very aware of. It's a difficult one to solve. You know, for every PC game out there. You know, when you're not a console, every PC has got a different configuration. But the problem is, and we all agree that, you know, the performance struggle on Block and Load. There's many reasons for that, but one of the simplest one is the nature of the game. The game is actually dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of blocks all across the map, and they all have their own life. They all are living. They all have different things to do, and that basically creates an overcharge on many things that you basically cannot have with other games of the same genre. So while we want to actually fix this, I want to make sure that, you know, we need to fix the game monetization first.
Awesome. Can you explain what you were doing about block and load in the update? Because globally, players want new heroes, new map, new balance, but when I think none or a little part of players are satisfied about it.
Yeah, so the question remains always the same. I will repeat that. This is an experiment. We want to prove to ourselves and to you guys that actually block and load has enough basically blood in it to make sure that we can continue sustainable. And if that's the case, then we can actually invest more in all of these things that you've mentioned. But to make sure that it's clear, we will, and I will keep it for other answers later, but yes, we will address some of these questions and some of these desires first.
At Lunatic, have you ever thought about individual gold rewards? Means more kills or more cube damage equals you earn more gold. And you won't be punished when you lose because of your teammates, and you get a better reward because you're doing a good job of carrying.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. It's an issue with all multiplayer games, right? You know, especially team games. You've got games that are 5v5. That's what block and load is about, and basically the performance of one individual is just basically 1/5 of the entire team. So even if you're really good, maybe you can still lose. That wouldn't happen if you were 1v1, and it would be less of the case if you were 3v3. So since we are a 5v5 game until further notice, there is an aspect of block and load that needs to be the team wins. We need to make sure that the entire team, you know, works together towards the objective, which is killing the enemy cube, and everything beyond that remains secondary. Know that once I've said that, I'm a big fan of individual performance. I believe that it's making the game more interesting, and I'd rather be able to, just like the question was asked, to say, well, we've lost this game, but God knows I've been able to actually make it too late or make sure that I make a difference, and we want to reward that. However, we want to reward it in a way that actually doesn't make it so that the teamwork doesn't count anymore. So there's a balance to strike somewhere, which is never easy to find. You know, different games have different approaches. We want to be somewhere in the middle. But in other words, and to conclude that lengthy answer, yes, we want to address that, but it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be immediately.
All right, there you go. That was a pretty awesome answer. Goodness. Bit of a throwback to 2015 here. I can't believe I'm saying that. That's how long it has been. Are you bringing back bombs damaging the cube?
Once more, another question relating to later questions as well. The problem we have with the bombs damaging cube is that I've been told by the team, because for those who know a little bit, I've not been here forever, so I've had to actually second-hand experiences from players, but it seemed that in the past, bombs, if you try to damage the cube with anything else than the digging tool, then it would make it very different, a very defined dynamic. The bombs damaging cubes, I think we're open to that once more, and that's going to be the same thing I keep repeating to make sure that the message goes on, is we are going to focus on the blocks first. We are going to actually rebalance the blocks and make sure everything's fine. If we can actually change the gameplay after the blocks is stabilized, then we will do it. But to answer that question clearly, I'm interested to figure out what we can do about this. And I like to see this, because I'm the first one to say I'm really frustrated whenever I have to switch back to my digging tool to kill the cube instead of just, you know, using my weapon or any kind of bomb I have. I'd love to do this, but it's not done yet.
Can we expect multiple game modes coming out in the future, like PvP?
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Sorry. Can we expect multiple game modes coming out in the future, like PvP?
Okay. So the question is back to the one of the firmer ones. Is we really want the biggest problem we've got with the game right now is we need enough people to make sure that you don't wait 30 minutes for matchmaking. So the more custom modes we would create, or the more different modes we would create, first of all, they would cost a lot to make and a lot to balance. But more than anything, they will divide the community, which means longer matchmaking times, and we would like to avoid this. So the answer is clearly no. We don't want to have more modes. We want to make sure we improve the main one. Yeah,
I think that's a good approach. It's never really want to split up. I think that's safe to say. Try and keep everyone in like one circle of matchmaking. But yeah, I can definitely understand that. Any concrete plans for preventing stalemates in games, such as tweaks to respawn timers, the blockbuster, or new systems like escalating objective / block damage done?
Yes, so concrete plan is not exactly the answer. We want to improve the stalemate, and once I've said that, it's typically having the weapons, and the bombs damage the cube in manners that actually we can balance and measure correctly, so that it's not throwing everything away is one of the ways. Typically, you can actually kill the cubes in much more different variations. So yes, we are wanting to do stalemates a thing of the past. But the solutions are open. It's coming back to this. If I come back to the community, which is excellent, what would you guys suggest as a solution for making the stalemates a thing of the past? Mm-hmm. Even though it will probably always happen. Two perfectly aligned teams will always fight it out for a lot of time. Personally, and obviously it's open to the community opinion, I like limited time for games. If we had a time limit of 20 minutes, and then by the end of 20 minutes, which cube is the most damage, loses, or that's an obvious one. Whether that changes too much the approach, you guys, you let me know.
Can I have an opinion on that?
Sorry, of course you can.
Personally, I love the fact that you never know when a game can end, and that was like the big win for me in that sense. Mm-hmm. Like, you could have a 45-minute classic, but it could end with just the one person sneaking through or trying to win it, whereas obviously if it was a time limit, you could have literally the team who could sneeze on the cube by 1 point, for example, who would win and stuff like that. Yeah,
well, we can discuss that in more detail, but it's a good discussion to have. You're a player as I am, and the point remains that that's what we call a stalemate. So if you like stalemates,
yeah, of course,
then it's a different situation.
I'm just speaking from experience, obviously, because of the wonderful hour-long matches I used to cast many years ago.
I've had 45 minutes matches when we started to play the game again. It felt like, fuck's sake, will it ever end, So that's the problem.
Nice word.
Sorry.
Oh boy. Jumping on to anti-cheat / bug fixes. Yes. Anti-cheat obviously is a very sensitive topic. Mm-hmm. It's not fun to deal with when you have cheaters in the game, etc. Yes. Would it be possible to give us any idea of when it can come into effect? Any changes to anti-cheat?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that was one of the key priorities. Beyond even we basically made it clear to Artplant, the developer, that actually the anti-cheat thing is the one thing we need to go first. And as we're speaking, it's being implemented in the game, and it will be released even before the update of December. So.
Oh, there you go.
That's basically something we want to make clear. We've listened to the community. It felt like, and as a gamer as well, I can't stand cheaters, and we need to have a strong stance on that. And hopefully, we'll be able to also, get feedback from some members of the community who have been very active in pointing out the flaws of the security of the game, so that we can actually address them. But the first move is anti-cheat will be released before the end of December.
Cool. I have a vague, a question from someone regarding balancing. I have a vague recollection of someone saying the PTR changes wouldn't be pushed until the December big update, but is this really necessary?
So the question with the PTR is we have not enough resources in game. That's basically Red Fox and me. Even Sean, who's taking his time to actually help us, is not working on the game. So we don't have much, time and enough resources to make sure that we can actually use the PTR as it should be used, which is basically a chamber of isolation before we push changes to the game. So it's very possible, not likely, not certain, that we actually will release directly on the live game, and that basically the people will be able to react. So that's under scrutiny for now.
Awesome. What is the most requested change by players that you cannot fulfill, and why?
So I've mentioned that a little bit before. I think thinking about it for a little bit, it feels like matchmaking times. The queue of matchmaking is typically the one thing that depends on how many players play the game. So as long as we actually have few players playing the game, it's something we definitely can't fix. The one way to fix it is to have a good game first, a game that we can sustain and invest into, and then throw loads of marketing dollars to make sure that we bring more people, and then the matchmaking queues will go down. But in the meantime, it's very difficult, if impossible, to fix.
Lovely quote, marketing dollars. I like that.
Yeah.
Throw the marketing dollars. What suspicion do you have about what caused the player base to decline?
Well, the suspicion is that we didn't have that. We didn't have communication with the community.
So it's safe to say you had a mindset as to why it was declining.
Yes, my opinion is very clear on that, is the fact that the game was not updated, and Sally, who's watching us, despite her best efforts, was not supported within the company to actually make sure things happened. So there was basically not enough for players to think that this game was worth investing time and energy into, and that's exactly why we're here to obviously hopefully change the thing.
I thought the game was a total blast, and I can't figure out why I started getting 30-minute queues after a few months of buzzing with activity. Brackets, Australian player here.
Yes, I've read that question, and I feel a little bit sorry for Australia, because I really mean it. It's difficult to actually get anything else, because Australia and New Zealand, for that matter, are in such a specific time zone that it's difficult for them to have more players. And by the time Russia wakes up, you already are a little bit too late in Australia. So the only answer I can give to this is I hope we are able to bring the game back to a level of excitement and attractiveness and appeal, that there will be many Australian players, and basically we'll be able to actually get more Australian players for less matchmaking times.
How can you improve the experience for both block and load veterans and new players, and to keep them invested in the game?
Yeah. That's basically a very good question. I've said, and I will repeat, for me, a good game, a game that lasts, is a game that takes care about their high-end player. The people who actually play all day, the players who really are invested in the game, the player who are watching this stream, in essence. You wouldn't watch a stream if you were not invested in the game. So we want to talk to you guys and tell you this is you who we care about. And we also want to make sure that we care about the new players, because if we want to have more players coming in, we need to welcome them. We need to make sure that understanding block and load, making sure that the game is fun to play, is not some kind of mystery, and you need to spend years and years of trying to figure out what everything does. So, in essence, our focus is on the high-end player first, making sure that everything is working once you actually are at the top. But once we've got that, we go back to making sure the game is becoming accessible to others. Because my belief, and I think it's the belief of many people, is the high-end player make the game what it is.
Have you considered crowdfunding to help get development funds back into block and load?
Yes, but we basically considered for a little bit and then ruled it out for two reasons. First, it's not very reliable. We don't know whether we'd reach a goal and how do you fix a goal. And for that matter, the amount that we'd ask would probably exceed the capacity of the crowdfunding anyway. And second, because what we're after is a sustainable, repeatable revenue stream, so that we can continually invest. What we want to make Block and Load is a live game. It's not a single-player game that you finish over time. We want to make sure that the block system is going to help us get enough money every month, so that we can last for months, years, and for a decade, hopefully, and challenge RuneScape as the best game at Jagex.
So we're going to move on to heroes now. Obviously, this is going to be a fun little section. There's a lot of questions related to the new hero, so I'm just going to try and summarize it in one question here. So what are the plans for bringing a new hero into the game?
So, good news. There will be a new hero in December. You might have heard of him already. The name is Tronson, and I won't give more details about him. There will be a new hero. We've been playtesting him for several days now, and it's actually really fun to play. It's quite unique. It's got a very specific arsenal that I just want to tease about it. There will be more information about this, but yes, it's an exciting, basically, hero that. And the great part about Tronson is that actually it's a hero you could only have in Block and Load. Some of the heroes you might say, well, this is just like the Scout, it's just like any other game. But Tronson is a hero that would only work in Block and Load.
It's pretty cool seeing a reaction from everyone. That's very awesome. Now, we mentioned new heroes. What about block skins and hero skins? So
it's part of the deal. We will also have, and there's some other questions about that, we'll have 2 Christmas skins for Christmas. Right, so one of them will be Tronson, and some others will be for other heroes. Once again, dropping the ball here, letting people think what kind of hero it might be. But block skins are also obviously part of the deal. We are going to focus on blocks. The belief we have, and I have, and hopefully everyone else, is what makes Block and Load different from any other shooter is the block. This is what makes it different. And when you think of it, the fact that the block is actually always the same is not very fun. So we've got some skins in the game, but the part of the block progression will be skins for blocks are going to come.
I hope you bring back the Christmas turret. That was legendary in my mind. The Tony's turret, the 5 carrots.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That was amazing.
The only thing I've seen, when I was checking the skins for the blocks, is typically there were very weird skins that happened in the past that we had to remove for just like the Oasis being some kind of healing fountain. You figure out what the heck does this block do? So readability issues with skins need to be thought out before we actually release them.
Yeah, Luigi. How could I forget Luigi, the snowman turret? My goodness. Oh, man. Oh, geez, memory's slowing back a little bit. Are you considering reworking any heroes, and if so, who?
So, good question. The answer would be yes, not no. Reason being, once more, that we want to focus on the block progression. It's a difficult enough topic in and of itself to actually upset the balance of the entire game by bringing blocks that level up, that make difference. We've got a lot of feedback on the Steam forums to tell us, well, this is going to upset the game in such and such way. We are perfectly aware of that. Therefore, we want to ring fence it to some extent. Therefore, in that context, heroes will be rather untouched. We just want to not touch the heroes until we've got the block system integrated, and then we'll move it to the next stage.
And I assume in regards to that answer obviously came in regards to reworking, but does that also apply to deciding what heroes get buffed and nerfed as well?
Indeed, that's the same principle, yes.
Have you considered any changes to the current roster of heroes, and how will you encourage players to play heroes that are not usually played as often?
It's basically participates of the same answer. We don't really want to touch heroes. We'll introduce a new one. We'll introduce Trunson, which is fun to play. Well, basically people will try it and figure out what comes up. And I can tell you by the day it's received, it's either OP or he needs to be buffed. We'll figure out over the midterm
OP
to
needs
long
to be
term.
buffed.
It will either be OP or
right.
will need to
I was
be
going to
nerfed.
say,
I expect 50% at least of the community tell us this is just overpowered, and 50% tell us, well, this is useless. In the middle, there might be the truth, and we will figure out only over time whether it's actually a good hero to play with, and we will tweak that hero first, and then the others to come then.
Are we going to see some sort of block progression build on the PTR before it goes live?
So, coming back to the PTR discussion, yes, we would like to, but it's not a certainty. Once more, we don't have enough players to say, well, the PTR is actually a really reasonable expectation of how many players would play. So, we want to be a little bit more, direct and bypass the PTR because we don't have the time, because we don't have enough resources. But if we can, we will.
What are the team's thoughts on my alternative block progression? This was essentially a post that was linked to, so you've already seen it.
Yeah, so. It's PH. I have to say I liked it. Just want to say it changes from the former feedback you've provided in the past, so I really enjoyed that. It's to the point that I've actually copy-pasted the entire thread or the entire topic to the development Slack and asked the development team to tell me what we can do, what we can't do. One thing that I really wanted to point out is the global objective was really, really good. I think it's exciting. It's one thing that actually in your proposal was really interesting, and I'd like to make this a reality potentially. What I want to make sure is keep expectations in check. We can't do it for the release that will happen in December because we want to keep our timings. Mm-hmm. We don't want to disrupt, but rest assured that it's been considered, and we want to discuss that further.
Can the TTP on Brixby revert? Time to place. Can the time to place on Brixby revert? It certainly helped with the spam there.
Yeah, TTP is time to place blocks, and I had to ask before I could answer as well. The question.
I'm glad I remembered that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I would have called that TTB, time to build.
Time to build. Yeah, they both work.
So the time to place is obviously a parameter for every block to actually keep in consideration. For us, it's an essential way to balance the game. You just don't want to be able to bring a granite block that you can build instantly. It's not working. You need to actually make something about it. So in other words, it's here to stay, but it's all about balancing them, especially with leveling progress that they're either very short or very long depending on what you want to do.
So safe to say level progression is definitely like a big step for that goal as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Awesome. First of all, are you going to be thoroughly reviewing the block progression system, and how many blocks are going to be added?
So yes, of course we are going to review the progression system. This is the core of what we want blocks to become. We want to make sure that the progression system is fed from your feedback, fed from the experience, from the data we'll gather, and basically the pure fun that it brings to the game. So we believe that more blocks can only be beneficial to block and load, and therefore we are going to release at least 3 blocks for December. More to come in the future. I've seen the concept art, the ideas. One of them is going to be picked by you, the community, so we count on you. There's a thread on the Steam forums that we expect to have a survey monkey attached to it, so you vote for the block you want, and I feel like some kind of political thing. You vote for your block, but that's the way we want it to be. We want to make sure that you guys pick the block that seems the most exciting for you, and by Monday hopefully we expect to have the answer, and will be developed for the update in December.
Awesome. Since the vast majority of blocks are defensive, how are you going to make sure attackers can keep up with defenders with their new and upgraded blocks?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because thinking about this and discussing with the players, it feels like there are probably a lot of actually offensive blocks. You talk about the bombs, C4, the Astarelas, satellite, and so on, and we've got also blocks that may be used offensively as much as defensively. I'm thinking about the spawn points. I'm thinking about the ammunition and health packs. Basically, you if you have them up front, in the attack, they are as useful as they are in the defense. But last but not least, the one of the blocks that actually is going to be released is going to be very offensive, so no worries about that. But last but not least, it's just the first of a hopefully long series of blocks that we will balance between offensive and defensive approaches.
Awesome. Let's move on to maps. Will the map rotation ever be changed?
Good question. I'm the first one to complain about the maps, just so you know. I'm not a good player, so those who have seen me in the last stream can testify. However, I have an understanding of how to play a first-person shooter game, and I feel like the maps lack in terms of tightness, in terms of drive, in terms of how many options you have. So if all of this is a success, if we're able to say there's a blood in Block and Load and we need to revive it, then trust me, one of the main aspects that we'd like to address is the maps. And one of the best things for maps, those who've played Counter-Strike or games that actually have a strong community will know that the maps are half of the gameplay. So we want to make sure that the editor, will be an essential part of whoever wants to improve the game. And if you bring new maps to the game, then you'll be able to actually surface them. People will be able to play them. Right now the Steam Workshop is nice, but it doesn't allow you to actually get people to pick your map easily enough for it to become a success. The best maps in Counter-Strike have been developed by the community. So that's one of the midterm plans, I would say, to make sure that if you want to develop a map, if you create a good map, then people will try it and like it and play it more and more, and it will surface as the best map.
There's also a thread, I believe, calling for favorite maps as well. Yes,
there's a thread indeed in the Steam forums once more. Check it out. It's been created by Red Fox, and you want to actually check and vote. Tell us what are the maps you prefer and why you prefer them, so that if we come back with new maps, we know which are basically the one that makes a difference for you. I want also to mention I'm trying to create a map myself, based on my tastes, and let's see if I can release it if I've got the time. So let's see later.
Awesome. Are we going to bring back the old map rotation from the olden days, which I assume you kind of touched upon?
Yeah, it's exactly the same answer. We are not going to bring back the old rotation, but we want in the midterm, it's not going to be in the release of December, but in midterm, basically approach how we see maps created by community come up to the surface, so that you guys can play them more easily and more, more consistently than you can now.
So the main thing is definitely figuring out like a streamlined way to bring these user-created maps into the flow.
Yes, in essence, I hope we can actually design a system that you start a game and you figure out, okay, that's the map I prefer, that's mine, or that's what my friends, have developed, and actually have played it only once, but I want to play it again. You just don't have these 3 maps that, are always the same, that you just don't want, I don't like any of these. You just pick your map and hopefully it gets to a point.
Are there any thoughts, so just going to more community-oriented questions here, are there any thoughts to support the competitive community with things like helper tournaments, in-game awards, and other in-game systems to kind of support competitive play?
Yeah, so The answer, yes, we want to do this. The long answer is we can't do it yet because the game is not basically stable enough, and the progression system, I think it's a question from PH as well. And PH, I know how big you are about grinding and make sure we maintain balance. That's the key point. We want to make sure that we fix that first before we reignite the competition. But basically the high-end players will only live by competition. And these systems will be built on the level progression, will be built on what we've been able to achieve, so they will come. Once I've said that, there's not enough resources to make a competitive system in the game as we speak, but if you want to organize tournaments, please get in touch with us and I will make sure we can support you in some ways that actually makes the successful tournaments for everyone.
Awesome. Would there be time to set up some sort of methods of collaboration between the developers and the community for doing player/game statistics?
Yes, good question. I know who asked that question. I'd like to tell you if you're watching. I'm not sure if you are.
He is. He's in there.
Brilliant. So talk to me. Yes, I'd like to do this, and from what I've seen from your feedback up to now, I'd like to actually get more in depth with that for you. But yes, in essence, we'd like to. The short answer, we don't have the resources, but if you can help, I'd love to.
Will there be more community events like the Map Maker contest that happened in the summer, or any new events at all?
So it's coming back to the old saying, you know, we don't have enough resources. We just have to actually deal with the fact that it's still an experiment at that stage, and you know we need to make that experience successful so that these kind of things can come back, and we need to prove to the company that we work for that it's a game worth investing into, and once we've proven that, then we will be able to invest in it, and that's part of the kind of investment we would make.
So we're going to jump into some questions about marketing the game. I'm going to use it because we're getting towards the end of the questions that were asked on the Steam forum. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to say, if you have any questions for us now, as we're live on Twitch, pop them in the chat and we'll try and pick up what we can, because I didn't want to ask it towards the end of the stream, so we'll just be sitting here waiting. So marketing, obviously, you know, very important for a game, reaching new players and bringing back old players and so on. What does this mean for Block, for marketing? How are you going to market it more, or are you going to wait for the updates, etc., etc.?
So, well, obviously we're going to market a little bit, you know, that's what I want to say, in a low-key fashion, to make sure that we keep new players, you know, coming into the game, despite knowing that, you know, the first-time user experience is not as good as it should be, despite knowing that the flows have not all been fixed. And therefore, we just don't want to bring many players yet. But there will be some efforts up to February. And then, as we explained many times, conditioned to the success of our experiment, if we are able to say, look at that, you know, the players have embraced the change, we are basically able to create more sustainable revenue, it's worth investing again in Block and Load, then yes. If we're able to prove that actually we can make a profit out of the game, then yes, marketing will kick in big fashion.
Awesome. And after the December updates, what does that mean for marketing there? So
marketing is basically that. It's going to be a little bit for the marketing for the December update, and in January and February we'll make sure that we, you know, publicize the game, advertise in different channels to make sure that people know there's a Block and Load game still running, alive and kicking, and that's the idea. But indeed, there's not going to be an extreme push.
Awesome. I'm going to jump into some other questions now, because again towards the end here. Bit of a bug question here, but why haven't my challenges gotten reset for over 2 weeks? I'm very worried.
Yeah, there are some key questions we have not basically answered, specifically because they are too individual. The only reason we kept that one is to say, if you've got a bug, I think Red Fox has answered to this question and asked for more details. So please make sure that you give the details to Red Fox, so that Red Fox can go back to the developers and bring, you know, the basically the answer to that question, because it's difficult to judge from just that question.
There's the new Block survey in the chat, by the way, if you haven't seen it already. It's now in the Twitch chat. You can click that and fill out the survey and give your opinion on the new Block. So definitely check that out. Do you have any plans to improve new player retention? Currently, according to SteamDB, the game has a very poor median total play time of only 1 hour, whereas the mean play time is higher at 8 hours. So what it's showing is that the dedicated player base is kind of dragging it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. This is who we are talking to. So thank you for being here once more. You guys rule. The problem is we are not able to bring enough people and to keep them, playing, because we've got some new players who tell us, the game is great. Why doesn't it have more players? It's because it's too difficult to get into. It's because it's got all of the issues that you know about that we need to fix, but we haven't been able to because we're not able to be profitable. So that's this. These 3 months. The 3 upcoming months will make a difference in terms of how we can make these changes. But rest assured that my priority, once we've been able to say this is a system that works for the high-end player, like I said earlier in the stream, we will make sure that we change the introduction to the game, that we welcome new players to say this is how you play Block and Load, this is why it's fun, this is how you make it actually happen. But it will be a lot of work, a lot of investment that we can't make until we are sure that bringing new players will make a difference.
Can we get Nigel's old aim back, please? He was so much nicer to me back in the day. But more seriously, how much change do we actually expect to see in this next update?
Yeah, that's basically, I kept that as well. It's a very unique question in terms of it's one specific taste for one specific player. I'm happy to consider these, but I mentioned many times we probably won't want to upset the balance of the heroes and a lot of things until we actually are able to say that the blocks is working. So if the block progression is not working, we'll try to tweak it until it feels satisfactory. But until then, we probably will leave the heroes where they are.
Awesome. Are you going to tweak hero/perk prices, and what are the exact plans for it?
Yes, the answer is yes, because there are 3 things to tweak and more. So it's basically, I also want to say, we will tweak everything for as long as it takes. That's the key point. It's a live game. Block and Load it's basically, Jagex is turning into the home of living games, and what we call living games are games that provide always good opportunities for coming back and see this is what has changed, this is what has improved, this is what has been different from the last time I played. And you get into the game and you figure out, okay, well, that's not exactly the same game that I used to play because this has arrived, they have got new blocks, there's a new hero coming up, and therefore you keep tweaking over and over and over. It's basically, that's the day job of a game.
And also, don't you dare drop a surprise unannounced grind raise in December.
So I want to say, of course, that's why we're speaking about. That's why we're talking to you guys. That's why we're reading the forums. That's why we basically receiving, listening. We want to make sure this is a game that actually is your game, that actually you feel is worth investing your time and hopefully money into. So that actually this is something that we're listening to.
Awesome. Who are the devs/mods currently working on Block and Load? I'm aware of Red Fox and Lunatic, and I remember seeing another person in the forums once. Can we know who and how many people are working on the game, or is it a secret?
It's not exactly a secret. The point is, they're indeed on the Jagex side. It's basically me, Red Fox, and our marketing manager, but that's about it on the Jagex side. And then you've got Outplant, who's the developer of the game, and they've got up to 9 people, and that number varies depending of months and depending what we need to develop. So it's basically quite a strong development team already, without which we wouldn't be able to deliver what I've mentioned already.
Excuse me, a little lower on my wish list, but I wouldn't say no to more skins and block skins. Also, a Christmas being soonish. We kind of touched on this earlier, but are we going to have the usual Christmas exclusive skin as well as the massive December update?
Yes, indeed. So we will have that. I've mentioned that already. There are 2 skins already in the pipe and a new hero, and we will have skins for blocks as well. So that's on the pipe.
Also, can you look into making the supply drops more even? The best example is Cog's Grog, if you need a reference point for what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so it's kind of linking to the maps discussion we had. It's obviously these kind of spawn points are created by the map creator. So if we are able to create some kind of cycle, some kind of process where the best maps are not the ones that you play today, but the maps that we will build tomorrow, based on the level progressions and all of these kind of things that you know the game is good at, then we probably will have maps that are much more balanced in this way.
I'm just going to pull up a quick questions from the chat.
Yep.
Are you going to add an ability to the community to create skin blocks and maybe heroes?
That's a good question. I'd love to.
That'd be amazing.
The problem is obviously it's extremely difficult to make. We've got an editor, so I suggest if you really want to participate in the game, start with the map editor, because it's there, it's working, I'm using it. It's possible to make maps with the map editor. So start there, and the next step will be to make sure that you can actually play it easily with your friends, and then hopefully with more of the members of the community. Then when you suggest skin for the blocks, I will talk to the developers because I think it's a great idea. Skins for heroes will be much more difficult. Skins for blocks might be something we should consider.
Do you have a voice/accent in mind for Tronson already?
Not yet. We are working on it.
There you go, and someone offering to voice Tronson as well. Just to catch people up to speed, someone saying about anti-cheats. Can we kind of elaborate on what we said earlier in the stream in case they missed it?
Yeah, of course. So we are basically focusing on the anti-cheat because it's the one cancer for the multiplayer game. Anyway, so we are going to release an anti-cheat called Easy Anti-Cheat that's been used by many other games.
Okay.
EAC, indeed. And we've basically planned to release it even before the first update of December. So I just want to make sure that this is one of the, we've been listening to the community and we know that a multiplayer game needs to actually get rid of cheaters. And that's the first thing we're going to do. And we are going to involve some of the key players who already pointed some of the, I would say, weaknesses in our system so that they can help us, solidify it.
Awesome. Right. I'm going to use this opportunity to just say, give you the platform, I guess, to try and ask everyone how best they can help you, Red Fox, and the team going on. Because obviously now it's going to get very busy.
Yes.
It's very, obviously, quite nerve-in time.
Yeah.
I think that's safe to say, but very exciting. What's the best way when this update comes out the players can help you?
I think the best way is typically keep posting in those forums, but in a constructive fashion. That's really what we are. No, I've had so many discussions with people in the forums yet that basically says, hey, we don't trust Jagex. It's been too long. You've let us down so many times. Apologies once more. Every stream I'm going to actually say apologies in name of Jagex for letting you down, guys. But we're here to make sure we make a difference this time. And I hope by having these kind of streams, by being extremely open about what we're trying to do, we're changing the tone. We're changing the approach of that project, and we're changing the way we approach you guys. So take that into account. So the best way you can do it is to post in the forums, but in a constructive manner. Know that we are wanting to make this game a success where it needs to be, but the best way to help us is to give us encouragement. And once the game is released, please, try to embrace the system, talk about your friends about it, say it's actually a good game that's coming back, that we want to make a difference. And if possible, the best way, if only, is to spend some money on the block leveling system when it's out, because then we will be able to make a point that actually, yes, that's working, and we can actually get further.
So obviously, we did a recorded video, we uploaded it, we've now done a stream. Will there be more of these type of streams?
Yes, definitely. For me, that's the first of a series. The reason we're not doing the stream while I'm playing the game, first, because it's a very, very poor spectacle. First, I suck. I love the game, but I'm an old kid, and I basically can't play the game as fast as you guys. And second, it's extremely difficult for me to focus on the answers when I'm actually trying to kill the cube or defend from really excellent players in front of me. So that's why we chose this format this time, and I want to do more of this. I think it's difficult for us to actually read all the questions on the fly, but you can do that. But it's great to have the question in advance in the forum so that I can actually prepare and give you the best and more circumstantiated answers rather than just giving them on the fly.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to just say one other thing just before we end. And just a heads up that Red Fox is going to be away for about a week and a half. So yes, there is going to be no hero rotation for that current time. But of course, when he's back, it'll kick back in. The reason is stupid. I just want to share it with you guys. It's basically he knows how to do it and I don't. And we are the only two guys on the project. So there it is. Yeah, and you don't want to. And the problem is, he told me I can teach you. However, it will take half a day for you to get it without fucking up everything. So I just said, "Oh, okay, well, let's not do it. We'll wait for you to come back." Oh my god, I think we might need a censor for the future streams. Oh my goodness. Alrighty. I think it's been 45 minutes of basically straight up talking about the game, the future, questions, everything else. Is pretty exciting. I think that's safe to say. We had the video which was about 15 minutes. This is a stream where we've done 45 minutes of straight up talking, answering questions. So that's reassuring. At least I am excited. I hope I'm not the only one. But yeah, that is, I think, will bring us to the end. But obviously, thank you so much for watching this. I know Lunatic has already said it, but it's pretty awesome just to see some more familiar faces again.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, if you're kind of joining the stream late, when this stream ends, you can watch it back as a VOD on the Twitch channel. So if you did miss it, feel free to jump back on that. But most of all, when the stream ends, get involved in discussions on the forums. I'm sure Lunatic and Red Fox will be checking it out before he goes away, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure to do that. But apart from that, is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Block and load, not dead.
There you go. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and we will see you down the road. Get hyped for December's update and get talking in the forums. Take care and have a good one.
Bye, guys.